The new barista moved through the naval base cafeteria like someone who had done this 1,000 times before, her motions smooth, her eyes always aware of the room even while she smiled politely at sailors asking for an extra shot of espresso. She kept her hair pulled back under a simple cap, her name tag reading only, Maya, though that probably was not her real name. Everyone assumed she was just some civilian hire trying to make a living near the coast. She clocked in early, stayed late, never complained, and never bragged or shared stories like the other staff who loved gossiping about which submariner flirted with them. She listened more than she talked. She watched the pilots swagger in with their flight jackets, watched officers bark orders while balancing breakfast sandwiches in one hand. Something in her eyes gave away that she understood this world far better than anyone guessed. She handled every situation with a quiet calm that made others strangely defer to her, almost as if some instinct told them she belonged in command instead of behind a counter. A young ensign once joked that she carried herself like she had survived fire, and Maya just smiled, shrugging it off. She never wore jewelry except for a thin bracelet made of braided cord, obviously military issue, but old and faded, like it had been through war. At night she sat alone on a bench outside the mess hall, staring up at fighter jets streaking across the sunset sky, her expression caught somewhere between longing and dread. She was rebuilding a life, brick by brick, hoping no one would ever connect the dots. That plan worked perfectly until the morning the Admiral walked in. The cafeteria was louder than usual that day, breakfast rush in full swing with officers and enlisted personnel crowding the line. The Admiral, a decorated legend whose presence made people stand straighter, stepped through the doorway with a few aides trailing behind. He did not visit this place often. The staff scrambled to appear sharper, the junior officers lowered their chatter, and Maya simply poured another cup of coffee like this was nothing new. She looked up briefly when he reached the counter, ready to ask for his order, no recognition in her face beyond polite courtesy. The Admiral studied her with an intensity she had not felt in a long time. His eyes narrowed, like he was running through a mental roster of ghosts. His aides continued talking, unaware of the lightning strike about to hit the room. Maya tried to remain composed, though she felt something shift under her ribs, old instincts waking as if someone had just flipped a switch. The Admiral did not speak at first. He took the coffee she offered, yet his hand hesitated midair. The world suddenly shrank to a bubble of silence between them, the kind of silence that carries danger. He leaned slightly forward, searching her eyes like he expected to find a buried secret there. People around them kept laughing, eating, and moving, but the Admiral saw only her. She realized too late that he recognized the way she stood, the exact angle of her shoulders, the small scar near her jaw that no one else would notice. The moment stretched sharp as broken glass, threatening to cut open a past she wanted covered forever. His voice broke the air, steady and unmistakable, speaking a single word that hit the room with the force of a seismic alarm. Spectre. It slipped from his mouth not as a guess but as a certainty, and every other sound collapsed at once. Plates stopped clattering. Conversations froze mid-sentence. People turned because they all knew that call sign. Spectre belonged to a phantom of the skies, a pilot rumored to have pulled off a classified rescue mission that nobody officially admitted had happened. A mission, where only one jet came back. That call sign was respected, feared, whispered about. The pilot who carried it vanished immediately after, erased from the record like a ghost who never lived. Now she was standing here with a price scanner and a pot of coffee. Maya's heart slammed inside her chest as if she were back in the cockpit dodging missile locks. Her hand tightened around the counter edge, yet her face stayed neutral because Spectre had been trained to reveal nothing. Several officers stared like they were witnessing a myth step into daylight. One pilot dropped his fork. Someone whispered, "No way," full of awe and suspicion. The Admiral's aides looked completely confused, trying to understand why the entire cafeteria suddenly felt like a covert intelligence briefing. Maya's pulse pounded, her instinct screaming to escape. She forced a smile, trying to laugh it off, though she saw in the Admiral's eyes there would be no pretending. The call sign hung in the air, a door kicked open to a past she could no longer outrun. Whispers started spreading through the base faster than the smell of fresh coffee. Everyone wanted to know what she had done, why a legendary aviator would be wearing an apron instead of medals, and whether danger was following close behind. Rumors multiplied. Some claimed she had disobeyed orders during that classified mission and got people killed. Others said she saved more lives than the Navy ever admitted, but politics buried her achievements. A few believed she was hiding from enemies more powerful than any nation. Pilots who loved telling stories around the bar suddenly went quiet when the topic shifted to Spectre, because they had heard enough to know arrogance could get you killed. Maya felt eyes tracking her every move like lasers, questions waiting behind every corner. The cafeteria no longer felt like neutral ground. Even the walls seemed to listen. People who once treated her like just the barista now straightened up nervously when she looked their way. There was fear, admiration, jealousy, and curiosity swirling around her like a storm she could not control. She lay awake at night again, haunted by old nightmares she buried deep. Gunfire in the sky, a friend's final scream through the radio. A desperate landing with fire trailing the wings. She carried guilt like a second skin, convinced she did not deserve a hero's welcome. She chose anonymity to protect others and herself. That choice was slipping away. Secrets have a way of clawing their path back to daylight, especially when powerful people decide the truth is needed again. The Admiral asked to speak with her privately away from the staring crowd. She followed reluctantly, back straight and steps measured, because Spectre still lived in her bones even if she tried to bury that identity. Once inside a quiet briefing room, he explained without theatrics that a new threat had surfaced in the same region where her final mission occurred. A splinter group with stolen tech. Familiar tactics. They believed someone who survived the original nightmare might hold critical intel for stopping another catastrophe. Maya's throat tightened as memories flooded back, the kind of memories no one should carry alone. The Admiral told her the Navy needed her again, not as a barista but as the ace pilot she once was. He reminded her of the lives she saved, the courage she showed against impossible odds. She stared at him with a mix of exhaustion and fury, because she had finally carved out a life where her hands smelled like coffee beans instead of jet fuel and cordite. She asked why her. He answered simply, because no one else could do what she did. The request was not an order, though duty echoed between his words. She looked down at her faded bracelet, the last remnant of a squadron whose names were lost to classified files. She promised herself she would never go back. She promised she would never fly into death again. Yet something inside her stirred, the part of her that refused to let innocent people suffer while she stood safely behind a counter pretending to be ordinary.